Good evening, everyone. This is Occupy Little Rock Radio, and you're listening to KABF 88.3 FM. In a moment, we will have some music as soon as I can figure out our CD player and why it's not giving me the actual.
Welcome to the Happy Chaos.
Okay.
Yes.
We're learning. It's a slow learning process.
I don't understand why, but for some strange reason, my host mics aren't working. My indicator lights aren't working, and all of a sudden now I got my CD burner, and I'm like, okay, I got my audio volume. What happened? Okay, well.
Are these mics not hot?
No, the mics are hot, folks.
Yeah, I can see us talking over here.
Yeah.
Well, while he's trying to figure that out, I'll go ahead and apologize for not posting last week's show. My hard drive crashed on my computer, so I lost all my audio editing software, and by the time I got it downloaded, I completely forgot to put up last week. So I will put up this week's and last week's tonight.
Okay, so obviously I have no music for the moment.
We'll just have to talk.
Yeah, I guess we're going to have to talk
right.
our heads off.
Well, that's okay, because we got a lot to cover today.
Yeah, we do. We have quite a bit.
Do. Unfortunately, we have a heavy schedule today. Once again, you're listening to Chris Nielson, and I'm not afraid to use my full name. No. We have Kaitlin in the studio, and we have Mel in the studio. And you are listening to Occupy Little Rock Radio, the voice of the people, not the sheeple.
No sheeple here.
And no sheeple here. I was going to give you the bittersweet with a nice little musical backtrack and possibly even an opener with what's going on. Unfortunately, my CD player is not playing.
We'll do it live!
We'll do it live! Unfortunately, I'm at a loss as to why it's not working. I think it's because the audio and the auxiliary is not.
They don't understand what you're saying. At least not most of them.
It's a technical
thing.
Technical difficulty that we have to learn.
Don't worry about it. We're just collecting, the phone numbers and who you're calling. We're not actually listening to your call.
Yeah. Anyway, well, I guess we're going to have to do the bitter without the sweet today. So we'll start off with the state of Occupy, the bitter truth and the sweetest victories. Human life cannot be patented or owned. Siding with anti-slavery laws, SCOTUS decided to say, no, you can't own body parts.
Well, corporations can't own. You can own your own body parts.
You can't own your own body
Oddly
parts.
enough, in this day and age, you actually can own your own body.
Yeah.
But during the Human Genome Project, there was a lot of discussion as to whether or not you could actually own a human being outright through cancer research. And
if I understand correctly, this was, and correct me if I'm wrong, this was a corporation who had discovered a kind of a marker in genes, right? And they wanted to patent that so that no one else could do research on it. Is that correct?
Research on breast cancer.
Yes. So they wanted to do all the research on breast cancer.
This would have extended to all chronic diseases or genetically generated diseases. That being said, this came out of the mouth of Clarence Thomas, the silent one, who finally spoke up on a ruling.
And they did rule that you cannot own markers in DNA. Yes. So yay for SCOTUS.
Yay for the human species. We can't own our own other people. That's proving anti-slavery is a good idea. Or we say no slavery whatsoever.
Right.
And I don't know more in Tar Sands News. Apparently, they have found out that there are efforts to characterize them as terrorists. Yes, they're joining the long list of community social movements as well as human species social movements.
Well, the entire Occupy movement.
Terrorists to who? The corporations and banks, by the way. We're terrorizing them.
Nice.
We're terrorizing them, that's right.
They're poisoning our water, and we are terrorizing them by pointing it out. That's
what
awesome.
happens when the corporation is the government.
Can I say that I am proud to be that kind of terrorist? I would like to make it clear that I am a non-violent terrorist, just so we're clear.
I still believe the banks and corporations are the terrorists. And yes, we can use the Patriot Act against them. They don't.
I want to use RICO.
Yes.
Because this is organized crime.
Yes, it is. It actually falls under several legal statutes as far as terrorizing the public in such a manner as to be criminal. And that being said, RICO and Patriot Act, as well as the NDAA, could actually fall under that purview. Moving on. Get this. I was scrolling through some of our hour mark, and make change, and I found out that yes, they are actually turning to temps to hire workers. They're going to temp agencies. They do not want part-time workers anymore. Walmart is doing this. On top of the fact that they are actually violating their own internal controls and importing bank.
Well, and on top of the fact that for every hour a person works, Walmart has to pay the temp agency not only the wage for that worker, but the fee for having them there. So.
Yeah.
But there's also the thing that I've worked in temp agencies.
So you're saying
some temp agencies actually take a cut of your pay.
Right.
Well, either way it goes, they get.
They either get paid by the corporation or by you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, whether they tell you they're doing it or not, they're paying so much. The company that's hiring the temp pays so much for the employee. However much they put their hand into it is, your work.
Yeah. It's sad that it is. I wished it didn't have to be that way, but yes, we are living in Walmartistan, and
Walmartistan. I love it.
Yes.
Here in Arkansas, we kind of are, aren't we?
Well, considering
I
the
guess
fact
that's
that
why we can't have a Costco.
Right? I know, I looked it up the other day. I don't know if anyone heard about this, but Costco, they found out that some of their berries had been contaminated by Hep A, I believe, and they pulled them off the shelves before the FDA told them they had to, and then they gave free Hep A shots to all of their customers and staff, and even said that if they wanted to go through their own doctors, they would reimburse for any money they spent on the Hep A. Yeah, exactly. Wow, a good business.
Costco is amazing. They actually have a corporate model that treats their employees fairly.
Right, they get benefits, they get a living wage.
Yeah, but
they're making money.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they can't quite make it to the cooperative deal because of the way they filed their charter.
Yeah.
So now they have to compete with cooperative businesses. They don't necessarily like to compete with Walmart and Sam's Club, but they really do like to compete.
And they're not in the South very much, probably because of Walmart headquarters.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know good and well.
Anyhow, good news, Occupy Gaziz. There was a temporary victory. Unfortunately, that was all but brief. The Erdogan backed down. He said he promised he wouldn't, in the immediate moment, tear down park for a mall.
Hey, look over here. Look over
here. Yeah, and unfortunately, the occupiers of Turkey decided, nah, we're not. We're just going to let that go. We're just going to go for some more stuff. And in Ankara, they started rounding up protesters there. So apparently, Occupy continues in Turkey, and Gaziz will be a close, persisting action.
Can you verify or debunk a rumor for me that you might know about the Occupy Turkey? I heard that some protesters have been shot and killed by police.
Yes.
Okay.
That has been confirmed through the Red Crescent and Red Cross. In fact, Amnesty has not been able to come forward with it, but
do you know if these were violent protesters?
No, this was actually these protesters were injured and killed after being hit by rubber bullets.
Okay. And so peaceful protesters, basically.
Peaceful protesters,
to break up the protest. Okay.
This is similar to what happened when they started out in Syria. They basically mowed down.
Well, and in Oakland with Scott Olson.
Yeah, You get to see the authoritarianism kind of creep out, and guess what? Yes, we are trying our desperately level best to try to keep this as nonviolent as possible, even though those that would have us permanently silenced just builds our movement. So you really guys, you shouldn't be shooting at us because you're just going to.
After that cop pepper sprayed them kids, I mean.
Yeah. It Occupy Davis, UC Davis.
UC Davis, New York. You take your pick. There's always examples that whenever you do something that heinously stupid.
Yeah.
You are going to have to communicate.
And out of country too, like within the U.S., I think it has stayed relatively peaceful, with the exception of Oakland, which did get violent. As I understand, that was Black Bloc that caused that.
That was actually a COINTEL group. And,
okay.
Seattle was able to actually out them.
Right.
Occupy Portland and Seattle were actually out
good.
There was Maricopa County, as well as a few other.
Yeah. The point I'm trying to make, though, is that in the U.S. we're able to stay relatively peaceful, and we have. But when it goes to other countries, that's when when depending on their laws, you run into problems where the protesters sometimes do have to get violent. And I obviously don't encourage that within the U.S. I don't really encourage it anywhere. But if it's what you have to do to not get shot by the police of your own country. Yes. I mean, violent revolution has its place. I don't know that it's necessary in the U.S., and I don't condone it in the U.S., but other countries, it doesn't work the same.
Yeah, the thing is generally the reason why they turn violent is basically the same way that the Palestinians did actually start out in a peaceful way, and then all of a sudden, this is considered what they call the Israeli model of approach, which is basically silence them to the point of frustration, to the point where the only thing that they can actually turn to is violence.
And it does happen.
You get a picture of it when they finally go up, because I don't know about anybody else, but I mean, anytime you hear the phrase Palestinian youth, the immediate image that comes to mind is a kid thrown rock.
Yeah.
Because we have seen it over and over and over.
Yeah. And in that sense, the bias is incredibly sad.
Yeah.
I wanted to give you one more update, and then I'll turn it over to Kaitlin for the Mayflower and other updates she has. Hong Kong protest. Yes, at the U.S. consulate.
Yes.
Occupy Hong Kong in the house. Yes, alive and well. I actually did see the characters of Occupy Hong Kong, and yes, I confirm they're still alive.
Yay.
Even in the totalitarian territory of China, they're still in Occupy.
Hong Kong is part of China now, but it is still a little bit different. It's not quite as much.
It's quite the hybrid. I mean, you have what they call a capital democracy in the middle of what supposedly is a totalitarian communist country.
You have a capitalist.
You
have a capitalist democracy, somewhat, in Hong Kong, and you have a communist capitalist system in China.
Yeah.
And the two of them blending together remains interesting.
Oh gosh, yes, because they take the best of both worlds. Really run with it. Because the number one thing is not in Occupy Hong Kong, there has yet to be an injury or a fatality in that
awesome.
Actually, they are one of the most peaceful, unencumbered occupies. Although, because of the fact that the NSA is the protest was to actually support Ed Snowden.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, Hong Kong has actually freed up their hubs.
For our viewers who don't know, can you give us a brief description of who he is?
Yeah. Ed Snowden is the NSA leaker or the whistleblower who outed the NSA's PRISM program and a few other
juicy little chunks of information.
Yes, on how the fact that a domestically chartered domestic surveillance group, which was supposed to take over from the CIA and domestic surveillance and the FBI, is now doing foreign spying and snooping. That kind of, the thing is there was a reason why they outed the CIA for domestic terrorism back in the 70s. I just found out, but the Chris Pyle, who was the whistleblower that did the whole thing about CIA was violating its own charter back in the 70s, and the reason why they were trying to stop recruiting on campuses back in the 70s and 80s is because of the fact that they were doing domestic spying. Well, the Supreme Court and Congress said, you know what, our oversight says you need to be only doing foreign. Well, and they kind of slapped the wrists of the CIA. In fact, Reagan and Bush did begrudgingly do that to a degree, but NSA was and still is, listening. And if you are listening, tell FCC, please let us have more public radio stations, please. We really do need to have a little bit more airspace than, say, the tiniest and lowest frequency you can possibly give us. And now I'm going to go ahead and let Kaitlin take over for the rest of the news.
Okay. Well, I'm going to start with, we've had some good news from SCOTUS with the DNA, making sure that you can't patent DNA, and now I've got some bad news from SCOTUS. I don't know if any of you have heard, but there is a new law now that you cannot protest on the grounds or in the building of the Supreme Court. I've got a quote here, the new regulation, some of the wording is, and this is a quote, "No person shall engage in a demonstration within the Supreme Court buildings and grounds. The term demonstration includes demonstrations, picketing, speech-making, marches, holding vigils, or religious services, and all other like forms of conduct that involve the communication or expression of views or grievances engaged in by one or more persons, the conduct of which is reasonably likely to draw a crowd or onlookers. The term does not include casual use by visitors or tourists that is not reasonably likely to attract a crowd or onlookers."
Oh, that's so nice. Now the Supreme Court is no longer a free speech day.
Exactly. It is still public land, but you are not allowed to protest anywhere on the grounds. As far as I understand, the closest you can get is the public sidewalk that is...
That's going to be a busy sidewalk.
Yeah, it's going to be a really busy sidewalk. There are people out there protesting all the time.
Yeah.
A bunch of different...
bunch of different groups.
Yeah.
You know, they're from
the left and the right, across the political spectrum.
Now, the good news is that a court in D.C. recently, just on Tuesday of this week, struck down the previous ban on protests, which said that it was illegal to parade, stand, or move in procession or assemblages on the Supreme Court grounds, or to display a flag, banner, or device designed or adapted to bring into public notice a party, organization, or movement. They struck that one down as, it says, overbroad and unreasonably restrictive of free speech. So I have a feeling we're going to see this one struck down as well, but for right now, it's illegal.
Well, I got a question. Can you still line dance at the IRS?
I don't know.
Well, you know, some of the videos say no, but then again, these people that are occupying chairs for nearly.
I would guess no, considering that group of people who got arrested for flash dancing at the Lincoln Memorial.
Oh. Yeah.
That was like last year, I think, and all they were doing was flash dancing. They were there for 3 minutes and they got arrested.
Oh, the flash mob dance.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Because that's an obvious threat to national.
Right?
We cannot have
no dancing.
No dancing.
Especially spontaneous dancing.
Right?
That might lead to spontaneous
singing. Do you have any more updates, say, with the You Shall Not Be Moved, or the city, or...
I do not. There was a meeting Wednesday of the board, the Tech Park board, but I missed it.
Yeah, so did I.
They didn't announce it until just right before.
Yeah, I think it was the same day, right?
It was the day before that I got the call that they were going to do it. But
wow. Yeah.
None of us was there. Let's just go with we were luring him into a false sense of security.
Yeah. Well, they usually put the minutes up online, so I'm gonna get on. I'm gonna see what I can find and hopefully report on it next week. And I'm gonna try very hard not to miss the next one. I didn't have time to find a babysitter. I mean, it was the day before. But yeah.
Yeah, this Occupy stuff kind of clashes with real life from time to time.
It does. It makes it difficult.
Yeah. The thing is there are some victories here that I gave you in the bittersweet segment. One of them, which is the fact that we have revealed yet again, a government agency doing the one thing it shouldn't be doing, violating privacy, and for the sake of security, which is kind of a false comparison, because when it comes to the Constitution, the first and the second and the fourth have been inextricably linked. Now, the reason why I say the second is because the British soldiers that came in and took the presses from our colonial newspapers to shut them up about the unfair taxation and the rampant exploitation of the colonials, kind of forced Franklin and Jefferson's and a few others' hands into writing the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, both which are joined at the hip for a lot of people. Privacy versus security. The fact that the NSA got its whistle blown. Granted, I really hate to use that kind of gay reference, but in this case,
no, you didn't go.
But apparently, yes, this is a terrible stain on gay rights.
Well, I'm hearing a lot of noise on the left, actually, because the one good, and I agree with Randy Rhodes on this one, the one good thing that has come out of the NSA being blown wide open on what they're doing, and we don't even know the extent of it yet, is that it has split both the Republicans and the Democrats down the middle because they can't agree on what is appropriate. From where I'm sitting at, from what I know so far, and we don't know everything yet, of course, but we have an issue here where they're once again telling us that we have to take your rights away in order to protect you.
Right.
This is simply a lie.
If
they need...
What they're doing is, they are. I think they do in some cases. I don't think it's right necessarily to trade like that, but I think they do in some cases actually trade for safety, which I still don't really agree with. But it seems more lately they're trading our freedoms to protect themselves from us.
Well, this is the problem. They are mining massive amounts of data. They are spending over $2 billion of your and my tax money in order to build a new facility just to store this.
Yeah.
And they claim that they have to have it on hand in case a terrorist calls somebody from out of the country. It's the only time that they're going to listen to the phone call. This is the problem. If you're only waiting for a known terrorist to call somebody, that's when you get your warrant. That's when you tap that person's phone. There is no need. There is no need for security, I should say, and that's the other problem that we've got here, is because it's not about security at all. It is about turning your every utterance, your every keystroke into a commodity to be sold to the highest bidder.
Yeah, and
once again, it's all
data mining.
I was going to say the commodity part. Yes, folks, the NSA is, in fact, a way to get around insider trading laws.
Yep.
In fact, there is a huge amount of money that can be made.
There's all kinds of things that they're using this
tons and tons.
And and the funny thing is they may be making money that way, but they're also wasting a lot. This came from when they were investigating Occupy Little Rock. And they came out with all of that information. For instance, some of us were followed. It says on my FBI file that I was followed for a day. My phone was tapped for 2 weeks. It says on Jennifer's that she was followed for multiple weeks.
We do that.
And there were several phone taps. She caught her tail. That was wonderful. Yeah, she actually came. She turned a block, came up behind her tail, and then got swarmed by police and got in trouble for interrupting an investigation on her.
On her going about minding her own business.
Right. Anyway, so we did see that, and when they came out with, I believe it was Dem Gazette, FOIA, that information, and found that they spent, I should start with Occupy Little Rock was decidedly the most peaceful and had the best relationship with the police of the occupies in the U.S. that we knew of.
Checking up our own,
right.
Almost to an embarrassment.
It was. Exactly. We cooperated very well. They cooperated with us pretty well. Exactly. The day we were evicted, we tried to serve them coffee, tea, and donuts. I mean, seriously. They didn't show up for them. They showed up hours later when they were cold, but whatever. But anyway, we were very peaceful. Right. Right, exactly. But so we did have a very peaceful relationship, but those FOIAs from the Homeland Security, from the FBI, showed that they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars monitoring us. Just us.
Yeah.
Just our group. And we never...
Which was ridiculous, because anytime we did bust one of them, we'd go, the GA is at 7:30.
Yeah, you should come out. Exactly. We invited the police out. We found several plants, which is how they spent a lot of the money, was planting people in our events. Yeah. Which was ridiculous, because even if they showed up in uniform, they were welcome to be a part of it.
This is funny, because the March...
They were welcome to simply observe.
Yeah, exactly.
What was great is the fact that the March in Monsanto that we just had, we actually had roughly about 5 of them show up, and they were basically great chaperones.
I mean,
in fact, they were even so holding signs. So it's like, they really want to have. They have an invested interest in their own food safety.
Yeah. I think the Little Rock police officer. I mean, not everybody on the force was our friend, but a lot of them were just kind of unusual.
Yeah. Well, and I think we might be the only Occupy too who actually negotiated our own eviction. I mean, we sat down with the chief of police and discussed how to keep it from getting out of hand.
Yeah, because you do know that we did have a few that were looking at they had the chip on their shoulder, and
we knew we would have to control those. We knew from the beginning.
Yeah.
So, and I think we did a relatively good job.
Yeah, we did, and to get into this, the thing is, this domestic spying, it doesn't stop at just snooping. Anonymous has been trying to get the word out as the fact that they're actually interfering. And there are a few others, Electronic Freedom Foundation. There are so many that are trying to get the word out that it's not just the fact that they're listening, folks. If you're targeted by them, you might become interfered with financially. You could be cut off electronically, and
we're in a right to work state, so they can get your job.
They can get your job, and there's another thing that's really important here. They can impersonate you electronically. And that is a very, very...
Well, and they've already done it to some extent. I mean, I don't know if you guys have gotten your FBI files, but on mine it clearly says on the front page, status suspected domestic terrorist. I mean, if that comes up in a background check for me, I might have a hard time getting a job sometime from now.
Well, considering the fact of my pedigree...
I want to keep it, though. Just for the record, in my line of work, that's a commodity. We'll just go with that.
I will probably never get my FOI from the FBI or the NSA because my father worked for Ma Bell. And because Ma Bell was, and still is, the greatest monopoly in the world when it comes to information monopoly, yes, 160 years ago when AT&T was formed, they actually put in a contract. We were one of the first government contractors to the U.S. government. And even though they said that they broke it up with Teddy Roosevelt's this little antitrust deal, no. They kept their tolling facilities. They maintained control of their monopoly. The reason why we have just these 5 little companies, telecommunications companies in the U.S., is because of the fact that they were the ones who actually were the architects of that breakup, and they were the architects of the Reformation. We have lost a lot of baby bells that came out of the Judge Greene ruling, and to tell you the truth, they were doing well without Ma Bell. But the problem is Ma Bell, or the Bell system, which is a great AT&T, which is possibly one of the greatest human inventions when it comes to networking, having instantaneous networking, but via voice, a telephone. That connected people across the country. That's how the civil rights movement got around a lot of the stuff because of the whole action against AT&T to break them up was the fact that they were trying to bring them up so that the government could, as a tactic, absorbing them into the infrastructure of the actual community, the government as an administration, maintaining a network of communication amongst cities, amongst people, amongst villages. It was an invention to help us stay connected because we were getting spread out and separated. And the best way to keep connected was by mail. And now, oh my gosh, phone. Now it's the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a bunch of redundancies here. Human beings like to talk to each other, whether some people would admit it or not. This is kind of an important thing. Human beings are very, very social.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing, because we also have places in this country. I mean, I live in one myself. I have a hard time getting. I tease about living in the country, and I have to go out in the yard and climb a phone pole to log on to the internet. But that's almost to the extent of it. Here we are spending billions, literally billions of dollars, just to have private companies spy on us.
And give that information to the government.
What we should be spending on is infrastructure.
Yeah.
Just one small portion of which is Wi-Fi
Yeah.
across the country.
You know, speaking
Other countries that people come here and they try to use our internet and they go, "Are you kidding
Your
me?"
broadband sucks, dude.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of infrastructure, I've actually, out by my house, there's this giant pothole. It's been there for about 3 weeks. I reported it to the city twice because it's a danger. And the other day, I was driving, I drive past it almost every day, but I was driving, it's right on a curve, and as I was taking that curve, this cat jetted across the road, so I swerved to miss the cat. My back tire falls in this pothole. It's so deep that my side panel and bumper hit the ground.
Oh!
Okay, and that's how bad this thing is, and of course it's jagged. So I keep driving, and I think maybe I knocked something loose because I'm hearing this weird.
How close is it to your yard? Because when
it's probably about a mile from my yard.
Oh, I was gonna say, I hope it's not close to your yard because if it gets to the point where it actually has weeds growing out, you get a ticket for not mowing.
Really?
Yeah,
I thought maybe that I knocked something loose when I hit the pavement because I heard this weird dragging noise, but it kept clearing up every once in a while, and so I didn't think much about it. You know, I pulled over at one point and looked under my car and didn't see anything dragging, but I drive a bit further. I was probably like 2 miles away from it when I realized it was getting worse. I pulled over again and noticed my tire was flat. That's right, that pothole blew my tire.
Yes,
I took it in to get it replaced because I'd been driving on it so long that I damaged the sidewall because I didn't realize it was flat. And so I took it in and I asked what had happened to it, and they said that it looked like impact damage because the two sections. Yeah, well, no, the two sections of the inside tire, the interior tire. I don't understand tires, so I'll probably screw this up. But they said it ripped away in the impact and shredded on further use, so the tire was useless. And so I'm going to be sending the city a bill for my tire. Because I've reported it twice. It's been there for 3 weeks, and it's really bad. They said they deprioritized it because of where it was located. It didn't matter how severe it was, how large, how deep.
You can still sue the city for damages, by the way. But yes, that's right, folks. If you happen to have your car damaged by a pothole, yes, that's right. The city ordinances still allow citizens to actually sue the city for damages.
As long as it's been there for a certain amount of time. Like if it's the first day that the pothole's there and they've gotten no reports, they won't actually be responsible for it. Well, generally no.
Unless there's some idiot out there running around with an air jackhammer that basically.
Well, this deep one, I can't imagine what would have done it. It looked like someone set a bomb in the street.
Sinkhole.
No, that's right. That's right. We are plagued by Arkansas sinkholes. I'm going to go ahead and interrupt and just give our station identification. This is KABF 88.3 FM. You can hear us online at kabf.org, and you can donate at kabf.org. This is a mutually supported listener station. Please, please, please consider this.
What's the call-in number?
The call-in number for this show is 501-433-0088. That's it. 501-433-0088.
We'll try our darndest to get the phone.
Yeah, we're working on the phone.
I actually have the phone set up to do this right, and I finally got my music going, so yes, this is not an actual total disaster for me.
You're going to be able to live with yourself.
Well, no, I'm just so happy that I got this right the first time. Coming back after getting trained by our good friend John.
Yay!
And he's such a wealth of information.
He is.
Learning about how radio is actually sanctioned by newspapers, and that was definitely something that I was wanting to stay longer for, but unfortunately I did have to toddle back and finish my news mining that I do every day.
Also,
I've gotten in the habit of doing that too.
It's an addiction.
It's an addiction. Yeah, it is.
But the thing is if you are forewarned, you are forearmed. And I don't mean the Popeye forearmed. I mean you are forearmed.
Just for the record, he did give his entire name. You should look him up on Facebook and add him as a friend, because I get some good news from Chris on Facebook.
Also, speaking of Facebook, we do have a Facebook page, Occupy Little Rock Radio. I believe it's a Facebook group.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you'd like to go there, I am keeping one eye on that. If you want to chime in that way, while we're on the air or after we go off of the air, it's just simply, it's on Facebook and it's Occupy Little Rock Radio.
And we'll be posting the radio shows there as well. Also, the like page for Occupy Little Rock.
I would also like to give a shout out to Occupy Boston Radio. Thank you for staying on, guys. You're helping us out. Hopefully, Oakland and San Francisco, as well as the Pacifica radio stations, will stay on the beat and help us out on Occupy and doing our mutual support, because we are all mutually supporting each other and helping listeners get forewarned. And
how many Occupy radio shows are there?
Well, at the beginning of
I know of at least two others.
We have at least two others. There's some podcasts, but at the beginning there was at least 50 that I know of that I couldn't keep up with quick enough. Unfortunately, due to the fact that
funding and interest,
because the fact that we have to operate on funding, money.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that is a necessary evil. It is a tool, but unfortunately, it's been turned into a weapon to the community at large. And we're going to have to turn that around.
And it didn't help that we were all labeled as domestic terrorists.
Well,
but yeah, by the way, that was mostly because some of them were legit. I'll give you that. There have been some legit ones, but for the most part, the FBI and Homeland Security define a domestic terrorist, a low-level domestic terrorist, as someone who shows up to a protest holding a sign. I mean, that's it. That's all it takes to be considered a domestic terrorist in this country, which is what happened. That's how I ended up on that list.
So, when I talk about saying, get out of the banks and go to a credit union, any credit union, just leave the banks. Just leave them. They are going to take your money away.
Yeah, that gets you labeled a little bit, doesn't it?
I've noticed here lately how wonderful the stock market is.
Oh, yes.
And how lousy the rest of us are doing.
Yeah.
I'm starting to, I don't know, I can't predict to you when it's going to happen. It seems like there's another fall coming, and I suspect this time around,
you're right.
It's going to be making 2008 look like a mama's
I've been talking to a few very good, educated, what they call monetary
economists.
No. These are what they call monetary functionalists. Economists, no. These guys recognize now that we are hitting into the paradox region, which means they're hitting that ceiling of functionality where monetary system is about ready to basically fold because of the debt system that has been in place.
Well, and it's slightly more than that too. Until they bring back the Glass-Steagall laws that separate investment and consumer banking, until they do that, we're going to have fall after fall after fall after fall. Well, it was the cause of the Great Depression. It was the cause of 2008, and it needs to be fixed again.
Yeah. This ludicrous notion that there are institutions that are too big to jail.
Yeah.
Is exactly why it's going to happen again. And trust me, if you put a few Wall Street bankers, I'm not talking about the little guys out in the internet.
No, Lloyd Blankfein,
I'm talking about the guys that make the policies that burn down the world economy.
Exactly. We arrest people and put them in jail for using medical marijuana in a state that doesn't allow it, but we won't jail the people who have devastated the entire country. And of course, we're not punishing them. And in the U.S., we seem to believe that punishment is necessary for bad behavior, but you're not punishing the bad behavior that affects everyone.
Yeah, if it's bad behavior that is, you know, something that you're putting into your body and affects you and you alone.
Right.
That needs severe punishment. But if you do things to enrich yourself
and hurt others,
and continue to enrich yourself even while others are suffering from your actions, no big deal.
Yeah.
And trust me, if we put a few of these fat cats in jail, the sun will come up tomorrow.
And everyone thinks, too, I think everyone's under the misguided impression that the 2008 crash wasn't as bad as the Great Depression because we didn't have the same effects. Just to clear that up, the Great Depression, they didn't use the bank bailouts. I am not justifying the bank bailouts at all. I'm not, because I don't like how they handled that at all. But those bank bailouts are what kept it from getting as bad as the Great Depression, and that was really it. Now, I think that they should have bailed out individuals. You know, go down the chain, bail out.
You're going to bail anybody out, bail out the homeowners.
Right.
If they run their interest rates.
Or just like one of the main reasons they said they weren't going to close those banks and bailed out the banks is because then we'd have the same situation as the Great Depression. People would go in and try and pull out their money and wouldn't be able to. It wasn't there. Well, so what you do is you make sure that it's there for them, but not to the bank. You know what I'm saying? You don't give the money to the bank and hope that they'll do the right thing. You give it to the individuals who would be affected by it.
The problem is, one of the root problems of all this is imaginary money.
Exactly. And that's why.
When you go and take out a loan, that doesn't go in their books as red. That goes in their books as black, as if you've already paid it back.
Right.
And then they sell that loan to somebody else, and they loan it out again. Well, here you're loaning out non-existent money.
Right, and I heard.
Why the system collapses.
Right, I heard recently that for every $1 that is actually a physical dollar, that there are, I think they said 20 imaginary dollars that are being spent elsewhere. And that's what we're talking about when we're talking about investment and consumer banking. Consumer banking is what you have in your bank account, and investment banking is what they take and put on Wall Street and bet around so it can be completely imaginary. Right, exactly. And so what they're doing and what caused the Great Depression was taking that consumer money out of the bank, betting it on Wall Street, and then of course Wall Street crashes and then it's not in your account. But if they separate the two, your stuff stays in your account, and they use interest and things like that, money that actually belongs to them, to invest elsewhere. And that was the major reason for Glass-Steagall, and I still cannot reason my way through why they overturned it in the 90s.
Because there are a very small amount of people that are making huge amounts of money, hand over fist. And
with very, very reckless investing.
When they put that in the bank, that ain't imaginary money, it's the real deal.
Yeah.
The banks that we bailed out, the people running them, we're not hurting in the slightest.
No.
And we're going to. And especially when we're not even going to enforce what weak laws we do have on the books. What kind of incentive do they have to correct the behavior that hurts the entire world?
Right.
Correct. The thing is the one backer, I'll say this. Banks are a wellspring, or what they call a concentration or a hub of information. And what I mean by that is that was the first network. Money gave a lot of information to a few people when it came to banking. Banking your money in a single spot was the most unprecedented form of information gathering. And then all of a sudden, J.P. Morgan decided to back Alexander Bell in his project to say, the telegraph was okay, but how about the phone system? I was like, oh gosh, now we've got AT&T. And yes, that's right. J.P. Morgan banked and bet on AT&T because, number one, he knew he could get a lot more information for his dollar. And the thing is now the NSA, which is the front for AT&T, what they call the government legalized front of the AT&T. It used to be that it was only AT&T that could control all that information, and then all of a sudden he had to have her foot in the door and say, well, no, if you want to stop domestic terrorism, for security reasons, which is basically, yes, let's violate it. Here's the deal. I know I may die trying to make it really complicated here, but this is the thing. We either have privacy for all, or we have no privacy for anyone. It's all or nothing on this one. Because number one, If you don't want any secrets, that's fine. But when it comes to you personally, you're going to have, this is your choice. Do you really want to have certain things that are, you know, part of the human function of having some privacy? Or do you want to have the NSA literally recording your turn on the throne?
Well, this is something else that really needs to be pointed out, is because we're talking about Wall Street, and we're also talking about the NSA. Now, Robert Wright wrote a very, very good essay it's a short read too. I've got it posted up on the Occupy pages.
Oh, thank you.
But there are two institutions that have little to no oversight and are so powerful in this country. And one of them is the National Security Agency, and the other one is Wall Street, and they do work together.
Right.
The NSA, I heard somebody, I can't remember where I heard this at, but I heard somebody the other day mention that there's like 20 contractors for every actual NSA employee.
Yeah.
Now let me put this to you this way. A corporation comes in, has this huge contract. They're paying their people outrageous amounts of money.
Yeah.
Now, who is their loyalty going to be to?
Right.
Is it going to be to the Constitution and to the United States of America?
And the public?
And the public? Or is it going to be to the corporation, the multinational corporation that overpays them?
Yeah.
And there are a lot of these folks. Ed Snowden is just one person. There are thousands of folks that have never taken any kind of, oath or anything about secrecy, but they have access to all of this information. If you're not worried about the government screwing you over, you need to stop and think a little bit about how many people got their fingers in the pot.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, this is it's just right for
this. Yeah, and we kind of have built that in our society over the last few decades. I mean, we've turned the primary human motivation is greed now. Yeah. I mean, that's
it's not a value; it's a motivation.
Exactly, it is.
It does not work.
No, it doesn't. And I know I've had a hard time because I've seen it in myself too, like just built up over years.
Yeah.
It's how can I make money off of this? And it's in the back of my head. And I've been trying to kill it. It's very hard to squash.
It's drilled into your head.
Yeah, you have to rip that out and you've got to replace it with compassion because otherwise we're not going to fix this crap.
But we need to get back to one more update. This is on Exxon, and we really need this one because this is definitely, Exxon is benefiting from the NSA as well, by the way.
Well, I don't have anything on that, but I've got two things on Exxon. First of all, Arkansas Attorney General Dustin